Interesting. Care to share any further details on that?
Not at this time. I don't want to send anyone astray, and quite honestly, I want to make sure I get a good entry on some of these things. And more than that, I don't want to sound like a complete idiot by giving names or anything. But
okay.
Just tell me.
Just tell me.
Yeah.
I just have a. You can nod. Okay. Is it Retardio? Welcome to Token Narratives with Bitcoin.com. I'm Graham Stone, repping the marketing function at Bitcoin.com. With us, as usual, this week we have David from the news team.
You get a full name. You get a full name announced, and I only get the first name, huh? Okay.
David Sensel. I lost my script, so that's what happened. Right, lost my script, so I ended up like going off script.
Oh, I like it.
Threw in the full name there, yeah. So, quick reminder to everyone to sign up to the Bitcoin.com weekly newsletter, The Week in Review, which is written by David. It's a candid reflection of his thoughts on the market and the top stories, the most important stories of the week, delivered straight to your email box, completely free, inbox, completely free. It's a banger every week. I enjoy reading it.
Awesome. Yeah. I enjoy writing it. It's rather short, but surprisingly, it takes me quite a bit of time to write it, because I try to link to everything that I'm writing about. And it's deceptive, to me at least, how long it takes to write. Of course, I'm also probably stupid, so there's that.
Yeah, writing is hard. So
some people are really good at it. I am not by nature good at it. I don't think.
Yeah. ChatGPT is pretty good at writing.
I think it's good at writing mediocre stuff. For the record, I don't use ChatGPT for that because, ostensibly it's so short. Why would you need ChatGPT for like 3 paragraphs? So,
yeah. All right, let's get into our gut check for the week. Any thoughts? We had the debate, the big debate.
Yeah, did you watch it? I guess we can get into that later. I did.
No, let's get into it right now.
Okay.
The debate.
First of all, no crypto.
No crypto was mentioned, and also the poly market odds did not really change.
I think initially they did change because the mainstream media consensus was that Harris quote unquote won, whatever that means. And so I think during the debate and right afterwards, they they moved in Harris's favor a bit.
Yeah, it looks like. So the debate was when? Yesterday? This time yesterday, 24 hours ago, wasn't it?
Something like that, yeah.
Was it yesterday or the day before?
Maybe the day before. I'm getting my days all mixed together.
I think it must have been the day before, because look, Trump went from 52 down to 49. Like a little dump, a little sentiment dump.
Yeah.
But Kamala's in the lead here on poly market, but it's neck and neck.
It's interesting though, if you dig into the details of polymarket betting, the one you're looking at right now is the overall head to head, right?
Yeah,
They,
presidential election
po-
winner.
yeah, polymarket also has individual states, right? State by state.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
if you aggregate the states that matter, right? Most of the country doesn't matter, which is terrible for democracy, but there's only a handful of states that matter, right? So you take those swing states, and state by state, I think the last thing I saw was that Trump is winning a majority of those state by state. So the head to head doesn't match the swing state um, individual matchups, which
Yeah.
I think is
So
pretty
Michigan
interesting.
is a swing state, right? And it says 60% Democrat. What are the other ones? North Carolina,
Georgia,
Georgia, Florida, Georgia. I don't see Georgia. Arizona, 61 Republican. Yeah, well, all I could say is for the sake of our bags, Trump better win.
yeah, I mean, I talked about this in the weekend review newsletter, the weekly newsletter last week, and again, it was something that Corbyn said last week on Token Narratives that kind of stuck with me all weekend and throughout this week, which was that he was talking with other leaders of crypto companies, and they are
Mm-hmm.
all they've kind of stopped using capital. They've kind of paused development, just because there's a feeling that Harris won't be. I mean, the previous idea was that Harris would still be good for crypto, but it's evolving to the point where now it might be the case that Harris will actively be bad for crypto.
Yeah. There's no
Which,
great reset with Harris.
well, the idea was the previous idea was basically that Harris is gonna, she's gonna want to spend a lot of money. She's gonna turn on the printers, and that kind of dollar debasement is always good for almost always good for risk assets, especially things that are hungry for liquidity like Bitcoin. And so it would be good for
Yeah.
Bitcoin, maybe not great for all the other crypto coins. But again, like I said in the thing, if you look at like the SEC actions that are happening, it seems like they're ratcheting up again. So,
Yep.
not great for that. But in terms of the
On
question for
yeah.
this week, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to bring up something on the macro front, but you can go ahead if you had
Well, I was
like to
just going to go
continue
back to
that
the
thought.
original gut check question.
Mm.
I from the sentiment that I follow on Twitter, I'm getting kind of more positive feelings, right? Like mid-September to the end of September is what a lot of the people I follow are predicting we'll see a turnaround. And so a lot of the accounts that I follow have been very patient, I would say, conservative. And now they're starting to, at least in my anecdotal experience from the people I follow, are starting to get a little more constructive around what's it called, getting back into the market.
Yeah.
So
that's possible. However, I think with this election being so close, there's quite a high chance, reasonable chance, that the election results will be contested no matter who wins, and we're gonna get like a 2000 hanging Chad style, several months of lack of clarity on who the winner is, a constitutional crisis, and that's not going to be good for the markets. But
no,
one could argue that in that scenario, it could actually be good for Bitcoin, not necessarily crypto, but Bitcoin, because when things get really crazy, sometimes Bitcoin does perform as that risk. What do you call it? Insanity insurance.
Yeah, it's a flight to safety, basically, right? Like a hedge against, yeah, what's it called? Yeah, a hedge against chaos, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well,
I don't
so
know.
anyway, I don't see people making a decision about investing in Bitcoin or crypto until after the election. I just don't see it. People are
Yeah,
just going to wait. We're just going to keep probably going to go lower as the election approaches. But, that's probably a bottom signal that I'm thinking that.
I could see that happening. I could also see, I don't know. I mean, I could see it start to go back up though. Again, depending on liquidity returning to the market, and I don't know enough about this, but I'm reasonable at collecting people who do know, or like collecting information from people who do know, and so I don't know. I would say my sentiment indicators are getting a little more positive in general. So I think, well, this week actually, I started to dabble a little bit more in the market and a little bit more into the riskier parts of the market, just a dabble. But I think it's probably worth the risk reward. So we'll see if that pays off.
Interesting. Care to share any further details on that?
Not at this time. I don't want to send anyone astray, and quite honestly, I want to make sure I get a good entry on some of these things. And more than that, I don't want to sound like a complete idiot by giving names or anything. But
okay.
Just tell me.
Just tell me.
Yeah.
I just have a. You can nod. Okay. Is it Retardio?
What's the chart? Bring up the Retardio chart. I haven't seen it in a while. How's it doing? Oh, I have it right here. Let's see what we got.
Let's see what my last deck screener was.
Trump
coin. Retardio
looks okay. It's like it's sitting right on support.
Retardio
looks reasonable to me.
What's going on?
Right on support. It's not Retardio, but it's of the Retardio variety.
I'm not looking at the right chart here. There we go.
Send it.
I was looking at retard, not Retardio. Classic mistake.
That's so funny. Yeah, you get on that daily time frame, bro.
Oh yeah.
Not bad.
All right. So the thing I wanted to bring up was this right here.
All right, go ahead.
So the ISM Manufacturing Index. Now, this chart you can see correlates pretty closely with the price of Bitcoin and crypto. So we had a peak in 2017 when Bitcoin and crypto were in a massive bull market, and it dipped below zero here, the ISM. That corresponded with a bear market. Another peak here, 2020, 2021. That also corresponded with the crypto markets. And then we have this drop down here, 2023. It starts to come up above zero at the end of 2023, and that also corresponded with a rise in the crypto markets, but then a reversal and back down. So I just find this interesting. This thing needs to come back up to zero at least, or at least move in that direction before crypto is going to start pumping again.
But like at least for a lot of these, right? Like so you have a drawdown, and then that usually signals more dovish fiscal policy, right? Monetary policy and fiscal policy,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
monetary policy, and then that you can see the rapid rise coming up from that. Also worthy of note is I heard this from again one of these macro guys, TradFi macro guys. Uh, when the economy is doing really really well, right? So you have like three phases. The economy's kind of ho hum in the middle. It's doing poorly, and it's doing really well. The best zone for risk assets, stocks, and crypto is actually not when the economy is doing really well, right? Because when the economy is doing really well, money is going into the real economy, right? And so that money is not going into riskier assets. So like this chart would be, I think, more indicative of the real economy, right? Manufacturing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The best zone for risk assets like stocks and crypto is when it's kind of not doing great, not doing poorly, but just kind of ho hum. Because then money is trying to find a better return, and so that's the Goldilocks zone for risk assets, which is kind of funny. And apparently, if you look at like the stock market, the most of the gains in the stock market are they come when the economy has been doing poorly and it's starting to turn around, right? And then when the economy starts to turn around and you start to get really decent GDP growth during that kind of recovery period, or like when it's not doing great, that's when you get the most returns. And then once it's in a full blown like real economy bull cycle, the returns on stocks go taper.
This is because markets are forward looking.
They're forward looking, and also the money can go back into manufacturing and less of these very risky things.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on, shall we?
Let's do it.
Yeah. So I read this article this week, which I thought was quite interesting. It's from, just a moment, please, Matthew Siegel, who is head of digital assets research at VanEck, which is a global investment management firm. And the article is titled Bitcoin 2050 Valuation Scenarios. So the research team at VanEck, their base case for the Bitcoin price in 2050, so that's 25, 26 years from now, is $3 million per coin. And their bull case is $52 million per coin. Now, in the base case, that's a compound annual growth rate of 16%. And in the bull case, it's a 50% compound annual growth rate. So, okay, whatever. By the way, Michael Saylor also came out with a prediction this week, which let me just bring that up as well. He's saying it'll reach 13 million in 21 years, with following the same compound annual growth rate as the S&P 500 plus 8%. So I think that's about 18% compound annual growth rate. Okay, now what are these people, what are they basing these predictions on? The way I understand it is it revolves around their beliefs about the current and shifting trends in the international monetary system. So basically, the thesis is that declines in the relative global GDP of the current economic leaders like the US, EU, UK, and Japan will be replaced by their competitors. And in that process, there's going to be more of the international trades will be settled in Bitcoin. So VanEck is predicting with their base case, 10% of the international trade will be settled in Bitcoin and 5% of domestic trade by 2050. And then so their prediction sort of is
do they
based,
sorry, just to interrupt, do they make a prediction on the volatility by then of Bitcoin? Because you'd assume that this would require Bitcoin to become much less volatile, right? At least that's what I would think.
I'm not 100% sure on that question, but they are saying that the velocity of Bitcoin will gradually decrease. So what that means is, I didn't have the velocity chart, but basically, yeah, they're saying it's going to be mainly used for large transactions, not for payments like P2P payments on a small scale for industry. So their calculation is based on the velocity of money equation, which incorporates three components: GDP of local and international trade settled in Bitcoin, supply of actively circulating Bitcoin, and the velocity of Bitcoin. And they're saying it's going to become one of the world's reserve currencies, but only a small percent, even by 2050. But despite that, it would translate to that level of compound annual growth over the 25 years. So let me see what other charts we have here. Some supporting charts in their thesis. I thought this was interesting. So U.S. sanctioned entities have increased 530% since 2009. So we're looking at a chart here of all the companies, entities, people who have been sanctioned by the U.S. since 2009, and it's 5x, over 5x. And so this is part of the thesis of why there will be less trust in the U.S. dollar, for example. And we can see this playing out like actually just last month. Russia legislation passed last month legalizing Bitcoin mining and permitting the use of cryptocurrency for international payments in Russia. And observers have noted that those legislative changes were likely made in order to reduce the effect of Western sanctions while decreasing dependence on the US dollar. And that's been a long-term goal for Russia, especially with the recent geopolitical tensions. And we had Putin come out this week saying some positive things about Bitcoin, and especially noting that its mining is now booming in Siberia, where it's thanks to the improved legal clarity, but also an energy surplus in the region. And 54,000 BTC were mined in Russia last year, and that brought in about $500 million in tax revenue. Sort of a tangent there, but the point I'm trying to make is that as these sanctions more and more, as the US and its allies lash out to try to maintain their hegemony, it forces other nations to react, and Bitcoin will be one of the beneficiaries of that reaction, is the thesis. So here's a similar chart supporting that. Chinese yuan usage has doubled over the past year. We have a chart here showing yuan usage, percentage of SWIFT transactions by value has gone from about 2% to 4.5% over the last 8 years. So that's another supporting piece of information there, which is interesting. You feel like you want to say something?
You know what I want to say.
No, I don't. Yeah. Oh,
wow.
I do feel worried that I'm gonna get talking to here.
No,
A wet blanket.
not a wet blanket. Yeah, that's exactly. I'm all about that. So this information to me is, again, it's really, it's just not new, right? This is kind of in line with a lot of these BRICS arguments, which have been around for like, what, 20 years, 25 years? They've been saying this stuff, same stuff, kind of the same stats. So like, for example, this one you're just showing about Chinese yuan usage doubling. First of all, it's a tiny amount, right? Net, it's a tiny amount. Second, again, I've said this before, but what is the transaction denominated in, right? So it's the transaction happens in yuan, but what are they basing the value that's being transferred in? Is it based in yuan? No, it's not. Almost certainly not, right? It's denominated in dollars, right? And so yeah, maybe they're using a secondary currency on top of that to kind of trade value. But the thing that is determining the value of all the pieces is dollars, right? So I don't see that as necessarily showing that the dollar is weakening. And I'm not a dollar bull. I think the dollar's days will end. But again, I really think adhere closer to Brent Johnson and the milkshake theory, which is the reason that the dollar will end is not because the dollar will weaken, and it's not because people will want to abandon their dollars. It'll actually be the opposite, right? The thing that will cause the whole system to go down is there won't be enough dollars to go around, and the dollar's value will rise precipitously, causing the whole thing to fall apart, right? There's just some stats that a lot of people aren't familiar with, which is if you look at all the nations around the world, they owe each other dollars, right? They don't owe America dollars. I mean, they owe America some dollars, and America owes them some dollars. But if you take the aggregate amount of dollars that the U.S. owes to the rest of the world and dollars that the rest of the world owes to each other, they owe each other more dollars, right? So if the dollar devalues, if they abandon the dollar, the rest of the world, they lose money. They do. They lose more money than the U.S. does, right? So you can say things like, "Oh, America has been terrible with its monetary policy," and it has. I agree. And these sanctions are a terrible thing that America should stop right now. So I totally agree with that. It's weakening the dollar's reputation, and people are trying to move away from the dollars. But the problem is that all these countries, their debt and the debt they owe each other is denominated in dollars, and if the dollar goes, they lose more money than we do.
Okay.
So
yeah, I buy that.
They can't extricate themselves from that situation, right? Like, I don't know. And as for this article, like, I just don't see Bitcoin being the place where people transact. I think it'll be a great, like, they mention it.
Neither do they, actually. I mean, if you look at this chart, it's projections of hold on, percentage.
I think it'll be.
of
Yeah, go
trade
ahead.
denominated in these different currencies, right? They're only predicting that Bitcoin will go from like basically zero now to 2.5% by 2050.
Yeah.
So it's a marginal increase that they're pretty very conservative, you could argue.
Is
Now,
it? Does this chart? So they're saying in this chart that gold is used to transact between for international settlement
y-
right now.
hold on. This might be actually
Because this is not
holdings. This is holdings.
okay. Yeah. That's what that makes
Yeah.
sense, right? Like, so
Okay.
financial
So
reserves. Nobody
yeah,
in the world
reserves.
right now. Nobody in the world transacts in gold, right? Like, it's just
Okay,
not
yeah.
done.
This is reserves. So what they're saying here with this chart is that the reserves by nations
Yeah.
will go from of BTC will go from 0 to 2.5% over the next 25 years,
Yeah.
and
I I could
which is
see it going
conservative.
higher. Yeah, I think it would
Yeah.
go way higher than that.
So based on that, right, that alone would, according to them, result in this 16% compound annual growth rate and a price of 3 million per Bitcoin
Yeah.
by 2050. That's in the
Yeah.
base case. Yeah. And
Yeah,
you
but
can see
in
the
terms
US
of
dollar amount has been trending down, right? It was in 1999 close to 60%, and now it's between about 45%, right?
yeah.
And all of
Yeah.
the big currencies also are trending down.
Yeah. And again, I think the US has done a lot of terrible decisions, made a lot of terrible decisions that have weakened it. I still don't think the dollar is weaker at all, though. In fact, I would argue that it's probably in a better position now than even 20 years ago, just because it's basically, we talk about CBDCs and all this kind of stuff. The dollar is that already, right? And no other currency really has that level of um, of international infrastructure and acceptance, and that makes it even more what's it called, fundamental to the system, not just America's system, and liquidity and all this kind of stuff. So again, I do think the dollar will go down, but not in a, like I said, not in a it'll come to a point where probably dollars are too hard to obtain, uh, and you'll have a liquidity crisis, right? Because only
Yeah.
the U.S. can actually create dollars. That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, actually, one more thing I wanted to mention, because I also listened to an interview with the author of this report, Matthew Siegel. And what he said in the interview I found quite interesting. He noted that 7 different nations are now mining Bitcoin with support from the central government. So in the last year, within this year, 4 new nations joined that group. It's Argentina, Kenya, Ethiopia. Oh, sorry, 3 new nations joined that group. So what these nations are doing is, and you notice that those 3 nations mentioned, they're all nations that they're in debt negotiations with the IMF, right? They're essentially in default, and they also have energy surpluses in certain parts of their countries, like Ethiopia. I think they built this massive dam, and they've got an energy surplus, right? And what they're doing is they're with government support, they're using Bitcoin mining to earn hard currency, and I think that's something that is likely to continue growing in the future.
are they
And
they're using Bitcoin mining to mine Bitcoin and then turn it into dollars, most likely.
yes, exactly, that's what they're doing. Yes,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
They're not keeping the Bitcoin.
they're not keeping the Bitcoin. No, they're probably not keeping the Bitcoin. I mean,
They
they
want
might
dollars.
at some
They want
point
dollars.
speculate on it, but it's still it's interesting. that countries are using central governments are supporting Bitcoin mining, and it's a way to earn hard currency.
Yeah. It's also, it shows you, though, that a lot of these countries have really bad access to dollars, right? It's really hard for them to get dollars. And this is a great way to get them, right? So
Yeah.
that also makes sense. I mean, and you know me, I'm a proud American. And I think I'm looking at a Bitcoin mining map, and America, even despite the headwinds from like U.S. the legislature, America is quite a huge part of the Bitcoin global mining. What's it called? Hash power.
Yeah.
Man, think about what America could do if the government actually got behind it, like these other governments, right? And we wouldn't
Yeah.
need we don't have trouble with getting access to dollars, so then we could actually save some of them. What a terrible.
Yeah. All right. That's my TED Talk. What do you got?
Okay, so I'm gonna write this story. I've been putting it off for a long time, but I one of the events I went to this year, probably the one that was the most impactful to me personally, was what I did with this man named Clem, who produces products in conjunction with Nouns DAO NFT project. And before this talk, I was really kind of negative on NFTs, and also, I know you and I have talked about this, but pretty negative on DAOs. I feel like DAOs haven't really worked well, right? Poor governance and stuff. And then I had this interview with this guy, and it really made me bullish on NFT projects that do it right. Right? They're not doing some like what I kept seeing with a lot of Web3 projects is you get these really, really smart people who live online, and they create digital businesses, but then they kind of flounder on everything else, right? The business side of things, just simple things like how they organize their business, accounting, right? How do they set up the accounts? How do they have good like internal checks on how they're spending money? A lot of them just like blow through all their money. Terrible marketing, you know. They either do their own marketing and then they just waste money, or they hire people that don't really know how to do it, and they get kind of swindled that way. And the list goes on and on and on. And so I was very negative on that space. But after talking with Clem and some of the people from Nouns DAO, I became bullish on it, and I want to write an article hopefully this weekend. Oh, please God, talking about ways for investors or people in the market like you and me can judge an NFT project, and maybe find gems, or find what's going to really work well. And I wanted to highlight some of these different aspects, which is number one. I think NFT projects are digital IPs, right? So there's basically like some kind of creativity, right? Whether it's like characters or stories or things like that, they need to translate it into physical products, right? They have to. They can't just exist in a digital space. So I don't know. I'll stop there and I'll continue on, but I don't know if you have any thoughts on anything I've said so far.
NFTs need to have a physical presence. That's the thesis.
Well, no, that's part of it. That's number one. The idea is a lot of these NFT projects they've done a very poor job of putting themselves into a physical space, and they because they don't know, right? That's not their area of expertise. They're digital projects from people
Yeah.
who live online, right?
That's the exception that proves the rule there, of course, would be Pudgy Penguins, which exists in Walmart and
Well, that's the whole
is
point.
killing it. Exactly.
That's the whole point. So Nouns DAO, I think they know how to do it well, and then Pudgy Penguins, they were the ones kind of who did it first, and I probably Nouns DAO like looked at them and like, oh shit, we gotta do this. And I think I don't know this for a fact, but I think Pudgy Penguins, I imagine this to be true. They found people who have probably decades of experience making physical things, interacting with the Web 2 retail space to do it. I don't think they did it themselves, you know. They were smart to.
So you're saying that just because you know something about crypto, it doesn't mean you know something about everything else that has to do with marketing and a business.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
So
and
is this tangent?
Go ahead.
This seems bearish for let's say Ethereum, for example, right?
All right,
with,
let's go off on this. On
Vitalik
what,
out there,
Vitalik?
like donating to, I don't know, womb research or something.
And wearing his masks on planes still.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So
No, the point is your point is, it's an obvious point, right? We've seen it time and again in crypto. Like 2017, projects raked in tens of millions of dollars and didn't put it into dollars. They just let it ride. They raked in tens of millions of ETH and let it ride, and that was their treasury. You know, like just dumb stuff.
Some people did do it right. Like you look at Justin Tron, he did do it right. Right, he raked in
exactly
insane amounts of ETH, and then he denominated it in something that wouldn't.
EOS is another example that raked in absurd amounts of money, and then now they're just like a VC basically.
Yeah,
they just have this huge fund. They didn't actually build a product, but they just took the money and like started investing it.
Insane. What a massive rug. No, but I mean,
NFTs. I mean, what kind of physical stuff could actually happen here? Like, is it besides like so Pudgy Penguins, like plush toys?
So you're right. It is an obvious point, but it wasn't exactly obvious to me. Like, so you take this obvious point, like you take a fat person, and you know they should lose weight, and if you tell them the obvious advice, hey, you're fat, lose weight, it's not really advice, really. Like, it's an obvious thing to say, but it's kind of how you get there, I feel like. And so how do you, if you're a NFT project and it's kind of obvious that you need to like have a good presence, I would say have a presence in real space, or you know, physical space. How do you do that? And because I've seen a lot of these projects do it poorly, very, very poorly. And I think the key, which is another obvious point, is that you need to hire people experts who know what they're doing, who have decades of experience, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen, you know, working in news, I've seen this, and I'm sure you've read some of these headlines of these people will hire like a marketing agency or whatever to make their stuff, you know, and then you see the results, even from a marketing angle, or you know, the crap that they make for conferences, and it's just cheap crap, right? There's no passion there. There's no expertise. It's immediate. You hold it, you pick it up, and you're like, oh, this is just crap. And it's not. It doesn't. What is it? Marie Kondo says it doesn't spark joy. Graham, it doesn't. And when I was walking through this conference, and there was a Nouns DAO area, and they had the noggles, those like glasses things. And it was immediately a different experience even before I held it, and I was like, whoa, this is pretty interesting. Like my reaction, I was like, oh, it's interesting how appealing this is. So again, more obvious advice, but you need to hire these people, and they're singular, right? They drive so much of this.
These
And
glasses, what's the deal with these glasses? These massive
so this is going to
vanity
sound like
plush
a
toy
shill of
glasses.
it's going to sound like a shill of Nouns DAO. Now, to be transparent, I don't have a Nouns NFT. I don't have it. So I don't have any affiliation with this company. I'm not getting any money or anything like this. But to me, what they're doing is kind of the right way to do it. Anyway, they hired this guy. He has like 30 years experience making props in Hollywood, and he has his own company making toys with, some of the biggest toy makers, Bandai, even these really expensive figurines that go for, I guess, hundreds of dollars. I don't know how they found this guy. Oh no, he talked about this, but still, someone who knew something found this guy and asked him, and he was passionate about it. So these glasses are the kind of the main feature of the Nouns NFT, and he was able to make a physical version of them, and it's no easy feat, right?
Yeah, it's hard to make things in the real world.
It's hard to make things in the real world, and it's hard to make them so that they're not flimsy, especially glasses, like where the hinges and all that,
especially,
and you have to know
oversized.
Yes.
Like what
Yeah.
are they
So
made
they
of?
sit on your they're made of like high quality plastic, and that's the other thing.
You looking
So
for
I was
them
talking
right now? You've got a pair.
Yeah, I've got a pair. Oh, here they are. And
Put them on.
They put them on. They
You got to put them on.
All right, fine. God damn it. There we go. Again,
you got to leave those on for the rest of the show. I think.
God damn it! All right, but so I was talking to this guy, and again, what sounds obvious, but it goes into all the details. Like he knows who to contact with who in manufacturing, right? Because he's built this up over decades of knowing. It's not going to be from some crappy factory in China or whatever that makes low quality plastic. And all that expertise, which takes so much time to accrue. It really, really, really makes a huge difference. So again, that's
curious. What do these glasses have to do with NFTs?
So if you look at the NFT, right, which is, again, it's just a picture, right? It's an IP NFT, right? It's just a picture. All of the little pictures, they have those glasses, right? So it's just a feature of the thing. That's the IP. Now, whether that is interesting to you or not, that's a personal thing. But it's just a piece of creativity, like the Nike swoosh or whatever that you think looks cool. The Louis Vuitton logo, right? I think it looks awesome because it's so eye-catching and kind of friendly, and I don't know. I've worn these to different conferences and stuff, and it always gets a laugh. It's quite noticeable, and they're not uncomfortable at all. Like I've worn them for quite a long time. So
those
I think
party glasses for sure.
They're definitely, and they're a good piece of IP. I've worn them around normal people, and they also get a smile and a laugh because they're novel. So I think it's a decent piece of IP, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
but I think that's kind of the point, though, Graham. Is we've talked about this, like what are these NFT projects, right? Are they like a community to get people to buy $10,000 whatever pictures like that? It has to be kind of more than that, right? Basically, is what I think. It has to reach out and appeal to people and to brands. These like Pudgy Penguins and Nouns DAO, they need to partner with other brands in traditional markets and stuff to really get penetration, to make it more valuable, right? So,
Yep.
um,
It's good stuff.
that's kind of, yeah. You're not interested in it at all, I can tell.
No, they're cool. I wish I had some of those glasses. The
They're
NFT I don't really care about, but the glasses I want.
the reason you would care about the NFT, right? Like, so let's try to work through this because it would apply to Pudgy Penguins too. And this is maybe where I don't quite know the long-term vision is what? Why would you own the
Well,
NFT?
okay, yeah, because okay, let's say these glasses go viral, or like Pudgy Penguins, they're on every like Walmart shelf, right? So they're out there advertising, they're out there creating value for the digitally scarce version of it, which there's a very limited number of them. So like one Pudgy Penguin NFT, isn't it like $50,000, right? Because there's only a
Something,
few of
yeah,
them,
absurd.
and there's millions of the actual plush toys out there in the world, each of them driving value to the NFT. And I think in the Pudgy Penguins case as well, there's like a rev share type of thing, like where every one that's sold goes to the treasury, which I don't know if they have like dividends worked into it or whatever, but like that's one way it could work, right? So the NFT then becomes almost like a share of the company. So there's ways that to derive value there, or to generate value. So
Yeah,
I don't know obviously what the case of this particular project is, but it's there's something there, right?
yeah, there's definitely something there. And again, I've talked with people from the Nouns DAO, and they Clem, they haven't just hired one guy who knows his stuff. They've hired other people who I also talk to, who have quite a long history in their respective fields. So again, it made me very, very bullish on them. And again, I don't have a Nouns NFT. I'm shilling this simply because I really do think it has merit. Now, I am considering getting one, but I still, I've been burnt by NFTs so much. It's a high bar for me to go in
Yeah.
and buy something
Yeah.
like this. But I agree
Yeah.
with you. Like the long term thing to me is where is confusing. So Nouns DAO is the same way, right? Everyone you buy, it goes into a treasury, and then they use that
Yeah.
treasury to hire
Further
people like
market.
Clem.
Yeah. Further do
Yeah,
the marketing, which
yeah,
increases the mind share of the thing, and then the
yeah.
digitally scarce version of it theoretically would increase its value, right?
Because more people
It makes
are,
sense. Yeah, because
but
it's
it's
just
still a little
it's
iffy, right?
in the
Still,
attention economy. Yeah, it's still a little iffy, like what the connection is between. I mean, but actually, it does make sense, right? If you, I guess the problem though, there's a lot of problems, right? Because like you can dilute those digitally scarce items easily, right? Oh,
like
we're
Azuki.
releasing it.
Azuki did that.
Yeah, we're releasing another set, right? So you got to
Azuki, yeah,
hope
Azuki
that
released
the
10,000 new
project
ones.
doesn't do that, right? Because and there's no guarantee that they won't do that. So yeah, there's a lot of problems with it.
Yeah,
But in theory, yeah,
I think my initial thing goes to something you said. I think if they started some kind of dividend or something, I think ultimately that's where it's going to go. It's probably too early for that right now. I mean, as
yeah,
in there's not enough
especially
money
legally, yeah, and also legally,
legally, but there's not enough money. Like these treasuries, I don't think are like big enough really to
yeah,
really start like putting money out, uh, doing that with their reserves. But yeah, I mean, presumably, if these IPs can roll themselves into full on brands, and they hire real people. Like, what if they hired a guy or girl, a person, non-binary person, to make clothes that were like really, really, really awesome, right? They're the legit fashion designer, and that took off. I mean, that would be great for the brand, and presumably there would be second order effects in terms of the value of the NFT. But again, it's not direct, right?
yeah, yeah,
It's a little different than with like a meme coin.
yeah. But I dig the concept of digital scarcity and tying like mind share in the real world to a digitally scarce item.
Yeah. I
That's
I
pretty
think of
cool.
it a little differently now. I think of it as a like what I see with like Nouns DAO even more than Pudgy Penguins, because I think Pudgy Penguins is more centrally controlled. What I know about Nouns DAO is it's an actual DAO, and people vote on this, and they have a little more autonomy in how they partner with people and get creative partners. I think of
Yeah.
it as like some kind of mimetic IP. So for whatever reason, people like this Nouns DAO aesthetic, right? The glasses and the whatever the weird characters. So that
Yeah.
wins. That has won that mimetic game, and then enough people have coalesced around it to put value in to create like a nascent company, a nascent brand, and then can you then take that new brand, that new IP, and turn it into a bigger real world IP. Like I think like you look at
Yeah.
like Nike now or Adidas or any of these fashion brands, it's just IP, right? Like
Yeah.
the clothes are kind of just a one aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
And I think
Exactly. Yeah.
that's what
But
this
they're
is.
also good at making the IRL stuff, which is a
Exactly
critical component of it. Yeah.
is critical. It's critical,
Yeah.
critical. And so then
Yeah.
these NFTs really that's kind of what they can become is
Yeah.
uh like a brand, a multifaceted brand where conceivably they'd have clothes, they'd appear in cartoons. But again, it would
Yeah.
all depend on people joining the DAO and lending their creativity to it. And that's really difficult, right? Can you do that? Can you get to that point?
All right, David. I've been told by our producer that we have a hard cutoff here of noon. So let's call it a day. Thank you very much for throwing wet blankets on my bullish macro setup, schooling me as always, learning. I got done learned. So and
Well,
also enjoy the conversation as always.
just on that, I'd have to say it always reminds me of that quote, which is um, pessimist. What is it? You pessimists want to sound smart or are smart, but optimists like make money, right? Something like that. I butchered it, but being
Yeah.
naturally pessimistic or like a wet blanket might sound good,
You
but
Yeah,
you
scared
miss all
money.
the opportunities. You miss all the
Scared
opportunities.
money
So,
doesn't make money. Yeah.
so I need to listen to you more often, I think.
Yeah, get over here on the left curve, man. That's where it's at. All right. Thanks, everyone. Yeah. Adios. See you next week. Peace.